Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now this huge looking guy is an Australian grass tree root, 2.5 feet long, very heavy and very old. These plants are incredibly slow growing, so this is probably a few hundred years old. Now we will talk more later on about this species of wood, but at the moment we have another problem we need to contend with. Now I've got a few ideas of what I want to do with this, but we do have rather a large hole and crack going down through the center. Exactly how far it goes I'm not sure, but I have stuck a few things in there and they do go in an awful long way. Now if you look at the side, we also have a few openings which they may be connected to the large opening we've got at the end. So before we can do anything there, I need to plug these somehow just to make sure that anything we pour into there doesn't pour out the other end. Right, let's take this into the other part of the workshop and get started. Okay, I've got everything just about ready to start pouring the resin. We're using the Let's Resin Deep Pour epoxy resin because it's a nice thin viscous liquid that we can make sure we can get deep into the grass tree. Now I have had these sat in a nice warm place, so they're fairly fluid at the moment, but after I've mixed it I'm going to be putting it back into a warm location, probably in a bath of hot water or something like that, just to thin it up even more so we can make sure it gets as deep as possible. Now the first problem we've got to overcome is how much resin to make. We do have a reasonable sized cavity in the top of this piece, let alone the gap we've got inside, and I'd like to try and fill that up as much as I can, just to give me plenty of options when it comes to making something out of this. So I think I'm going to make up 750 milliliters of resin. Now this is a two-part mix, so it's 2 parts of part A. So I'm going to measure out 500 milliliters of part A. And then we had 50% more with part B. So that's an extra 250 mil, which will take us up to 750. Now colour-wise, I'm going to be mixing in an opaque black along with a copper colour. Hopefully this will give us a nice warm colour to match the wood itself. I'm going to mix this first by hand and then using the machine. I shall get our wonderful mixing machine and set it off. Okay, that should do it. Right, I'm going to put this into a nice warm location to help get rid of the bubbles and to keep the liquid as thin as possible. While that's happening, we'll get the piece ready for the pour. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we've got a huge hole down here. We've also got a few cavities or openings on the side, and I don't know if these are connected to what's going on the top. So we're just going to seal these the best we can. I'm going to seal up each one with a bit of hot glue. That should do it. Okay, that's pretty much dry, so I'm going to seal it now with a black cellophane wrap. Okay, that's pretty good. But hopefully now, just to make it extra safe, I've built a stand for it with an extra level of protection for when we pour. Okay, so what we have now is our wonderful grass tree root, sealed with black cellophane and hot glue, set in a carrier bag, all sat in a plastic tube, so that'll hopefully keep it upright, and then we can start to pour. This has been sat for a good long while. It's at a good healthy temperature, so now we'll see if we've made enough. Okay, I've poured over half and there is no sign of anything filling up yet. I think that's the most remarkable guess I have ever done. Okay, I'm going to keep a close eye on this because there's a reasonable chance that as air pockets are released, this will go down. And if I need to make up a little bit more, I'll do so. But hopefully while this is still fairly fluid in there, so it'll mix in with itself. Right, I'll bring you all back when this is done and we can get on to the next stage. Okay, there we go. All nice and dry. I did have to do a couple more pours just to top it up as the grass tree roots soaked up the resin. Now, one thing I am slightly concerned about is that you can see there's a lot of staining on the surface around where the resin is. Now, I'm not sure if that's happened to the whole piece or if that's just particular to the surface where it's seeped over the edge. Well, I guess we'll find out as soon as we start turning. Okay, right, we'll take off our protective layer and find out if any seepage through the sides. Okay, looks like it's come to the surface there and a little bit along here. But apart from that, I think we've done not too bad. Right, now we've got to figure out what on earth we're going to make with it. Okay, now this is a very big piece of wood, although it's not technically wood, it's a monocot. And this material is lots of finely compressed fibres. But those compressed fibres do give us the most amazing grain pattern, as hopefully you'll see a little bit later on. Now, as I say, this is a very, very big piece. It was quite expensive, and I'd like to try and get more than one piece out of it. So I think I'm going to take it over to the bandsaw, cut it off there to leave us this big chunk at the top. And then hopefully we can get at least 1 or 2 extra pieces by coring some of this out. Right, I'll come over to the bandsaw and we'll get started. Okay, we're all set up to make the cut, but before we do that, we have to protect ourselves. The dust from grass tree roots is carcinogenic. In other words, it can cause cancer. So I'm going to be wearing an air-fed mask, which will cut out 99.8% of particles down to 1 micron, and that should hopefully keep us pretty safe as we're working on this. Okay, that's the first cut made. So we've got a nice useful sized piece. You can see the extent of that crack going through. And quite an unusual colour and grain pattern from this, this cross section. Right, now I'm wanting to initially hold it this way on the lathe, using probably a live centre on this end, so I can turn a tenon on here. But this little dip we've got here is going to get in the way, so I'm just going to get out with a sanding disc, but I'm going to do it outside just to keep the dust in the workshop down to the minimum for the moment. Okay, that seems to be pretty well balanced. We'll be starting off turning at about 600 RPM. First of all, I want to get this base nice and flat and then start working up the edges a little bit. Now, because we're wanting to attempt to core some of this to get out some extra wood, I don't want to leave this natural edge so much. It is beautiful, but it's too irregular, and I think the staining we've got on the top from the resin is going to... I'll play by ear. I'll maybe try and save some of it, but coring it could be tricky with that live edge still on. So I'll see how it goes. But anyway, get the base flat, start working up the sides a little bit, and then we'll take it from there. a good start. Now, I apologise about the little bit of background noise. I've just turned on my air extraction, which I am going to keep running constantly throughout this. Normally I would stop it as I'm talking, but I want to try and keep the air in my workshop as pure as I can for the time I'm spending without the mask on. Now, also one other quick warning: if you have trypophobia, this wood does have lots and lots of incredibly small dots, which I know can set off that condition. So if you do have trypophobia, I do apologise, but I can't change the nature of the wood. Right, happy with this so far. This kind of low angled shape on the base, this gentle curve here, I quite like. So I may try and investigate some sort of OG shape, so a double curve. So out and then in and then out, and we'll do our best to try and leave some of this natural edge on it. So let's continue with that. Okay, wow, that looks absolutely incredible. I have turned this before, but the other piece I had was a lot darker in nature. But these yellows are just absolutely astonishing. Okay, I'm really happy with that shape. I'm really liking the way that's going, so we will continue until we're cutting this all the way around, and then we'll start worrying about the foot. I'm excited. Okay, it's going really, really well. I really like the shape. Still got some work to do on the foot. We still haven't touched some of the outer layer in this area here in the top, but I think I might leave it. I mean, this piece is just so utterly remarkable in terms of colour variation. I think that can only add to it as opposed to detract from it. So I just need to do a little bit of work on that corner there, just to get that smooth, and then we'll start worrying about the foot, get it flat, and then turn a nice decent sized tenon. Right, but apart from that, this is good. This is very good. Okay, I was about to create the tenon and I suddenly realised that I can't create it the normal way because we're working between centres. Normally I would take the tailstock away to create the full tenon, but obviously I can't do that because it will just fall off. So I've created it. We still have a nib left in the middle, but that's fine. We can work on that after we've finished. Right, I'm going to set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I'll bring you back when it's done. Okay, sanding went well. I keep on wanting to refer to this as wood, even though it's not. But hopefully this camera here can pick up some of the incredible fine detail that you can see in this material. Right, we're going to give it a clean off with isopropyl before we put on a sealer. Oh my goodness. Oh heck. Oh, look at that. This is just mind-blowing. I'm lost for words. Okay, right, we'll let this dry, then I'll come back on with the sealer. Okay, that's just about dry. So we're going to go on with a blonde shellac sealer. This will help give us a nice surface to go over the top with an abrasive paste. Applying it with a brush just so I can sure I can get into all the natural edges and crevices we've left in there. Okay, right, we'll let this dry and then come back on with an abrasive paste. Okay, that's had plenty of time to dry. So we're going to go over the top with Northern Grit abrasive paste. This will help protect the surface, but also give us a finish of an equivalent of about 1,000 grit. When I was sanding, I sanded up to about 300, 320, I think it was. But this will take us just that little bit further. Give us a chance to get a nice smooth surface at the end. Okay, I'm going to rub this in with the lathe spinning. I've put eye protection on. And once again, with isopropyl alcohol, I'll wipe off the excess. Few areas in the grooves there as well. I'll need to blow that out as well. Okay, that's the surface all nice and clean. So we're now going to go on with a full strength blonde shellac polish. Again, applying with a brush. And we give this a first coat, let it dry, and then probably apply 2 or 3 more coats, I would think. We'll see how it goes. In case you missed it, I released a video last week on how to make up this polish and sealer. It's a very, very useful thing to have in the cupboard. Okay, right, I'm going to let this dry. Give it a quick going over once it's dried with a fine wire wool or high grit abrasive pad. Give it another coat or 2, and I'll bring you back when we're working on the other side. Okay, we're all turned round. Now, I am intending to try and take a few cores of this to give us more wood to do something else with, but because we've got this staining or the runoff from the resin, they're not going to be natural edge. So with that in mind, and to make my life and the coring a little bit easier, I'm just going to flatten off this surface up to about here before I start to core. done pretty well there. So I'll get out my coring system and we'll have another go at it. Okay, we're all about set up to start taking the first core. Now, the mistake I made last time was that I didn't do a tenon, or I didn't make a tenon to hold on to when we come to make the second bowl, or the bowl that we core out. So I've just put a little tenon in there first. That's going to help us hold this little piece that we're going to take out first. Now, if you missed the video when I did use these for the first time, this is the McNaughton coring system. It's not the standard type with a big jig that you just push on. You just push on it and it goes in and it takes a nice core. This one requires a little bit more skill, which I haven't quite developed yet, so we're still practicing. I think that first one looks very close. There we go. Right. It's only a small one, but it's perfectly formed. Excellent. Right. Next one. Okay, before I take this second core out, I'm just going to make a little recess in here that I can hold on to when I come to finish off this second core. We've got two. Oh. We've got two of perfect thickness. Excellent. It's actually working. Dare I go for one more? Plenty of room, I think. But do I risk it? It's really scary if you've never tried it before, especially with the McNaughton system. It's certainly good for the old heart rate. Right, let's just try one more. I feel like I'm so close, but it's kind of binding at the bottom. I don't quite know why. Oops. Now that isn't what I was hoping to happen. So I'm very not... Unfortunately, the violence of that has smashed off the tenon. That's okay. We can fix it. But what do we do about this thing inside? Okay, right. Before I started taking this core, I did put a recess in there. I wonder if I can use that to rebuild a foot on this. Yeah, of course I can. Right, we'll do that. Right, I'm going to go and take a break for a couple of seconds, have a little bit of a tidy up because it's getting quite dangerous around here with all the loose dust, and then we'll come back and fix this. Okay, we're still standing, we're back in this orientation again. So, easy to see what happened. The force of the coring tore off this tenon, which isn't great news, but nothing we can do about it now except try and fix it. So what we need to do, move you, is to create a foot and a tenon as well. So we need to start coming in from here to build up the material that we need. Hopefully there should be enough wood, well, it's not that it is wood, there should be enough material in here to do both without going through the base. Why do I keep doing this to myself? Right, luckily we did create a tenon on the inside of that bit we were coring, which has allowed us to get into this situation. I'm not going to bring up the tailstock for now. I've got to get rid of this little piece first. Actually, I might be able to just fit it in there. It only gives a lot of support, but it'll give us something. Right, we'll just work on reshaping this. Right, so now we've got a foot and a tenon again. Right, I'm going to quickly sand this little bit here. I'm not going to let you watch that again, or make you watch it again. And then I'll bring you back when we've turned this around again. And I'm not quite sure what's the next step after that. But anyway, I'll quickly sand this. Okay, we've turned back round. We're all sorted. You may consider this a rather insane move, but I want one last chance, or take one last go at taking this core out. I'm relatively nearly certain that we're not going to go through the bottom. Oh well, nothing ventured. I'm sorry, this is starting to get to be a point of principle with me now. I need to finish this. I need to see it through. There really can't be much left holding this on. Yes! Oh. Sorry. Oh, thank goodness. Right, I'm going to go for a lie down. We'll finish the rest tomorrow. Okay, it's the next morning. I've just about recovered from the ordeal yesterday, and we can get this thing finished off. Starting to turn at about 800 RPM. I've still got the dust extractors going, so I apologise about the noise, but safety is far more important. Face mask will of course be on at all times during turning. We'll get started. Okay, I had to turn on the air suction as well because this is what we're turning off. It's just literally an incredibly fine powder. Right, I think we've got the thickness on these walls just about where we want to be. So I'm going to come in with a scraper to start sorting out this base. We've still got the resin. We haven't really mentioned the resin at all. The resin's filled the gap beautifully, but we just need to scrape it back to get a decent finish on it. So I'll get in there with either a carbide or a scraper. I think I'll try a scraper first. If that has struggles with the resin, then I'll switch to a carbide. I think that will pretty much do that. Right, I'm going to set up for sanding. I shall let you watch a bit of it, and I shall bring you back when we're done. Sanding went smoothly, pun intended. I'm just going to give it a wipe over with isopropyl just to get all the dust out of the grain and just have another look at this amazing, absolutely amazing surface. I'm going to give the back a wipe down as well. Let's have a bit of battering, and then we'll come back with a sealer. Okay, that's a nice chance to dry, so we'll go on with the shellac sealer. This is a blonde shellac like before. It really is quite incredible. If you've managed to get through this far, then I would really appreciate hitting the like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It is free, it doesn't cost you anything, but it does make a great deal of difference to us. Some nice cutting. We'll go around the natural edge as well. I'm going to wipe over the back because there are going to be some runs. Okay, right, we'll let this dry, then come back with the abrasive paste. Okay, that's nice and dry, so I'll go back on with the Northern Grit abrasive paste. Put on some eye protection, and we'll rub it in. Wipe off again any excess with isopropyl. When this is done, we'll go on with the final coats of shellac. Okay, all nice and dry. And now for the final coats of our full strength blonde shellac. Like before, I'll let this coat dry and I'll go over with an abrasive pad and apply more coats until I think it's done. Okay, right, I'll let this one dry, cut it back, apply a few more coats, then I'll turn it around, take off the tenon, spend about 7 hours tidying up, and then we'll take a look at what we've done. Well, there we go, an Australian grass tree root bowl, and I am absolutely over the moon with it. I'm not holding any grudges for the problems it gave us. I'm just happy it's done. I'll be putting a few high-res photos at the end to try and give you an idea of just how amazing this grain is, because it's one of the things that you've got to see up close to be able to comprehend how utterly spectacular it is. Size-wise, at the end, we've got a piece which is about 12 inches wide by just over 4 inches deep. I'm so pleased I went with the natural edge at the end because it's given this piece so much life. It is so unusual. And also, don't forget the resin. The resin has worked absolutely amazing. The colour choice, I think, suits this piece absolutely perfectly. We've got the small copper bits you can see running through the colour. I think it really suits this bowl incredibly well. There's always a danger of when you're using resin that it's going to look out of place or too garish. But in this case, I think it's just the right balance, and I could not be happier. If you fancy having a go with resin, then there's always discount codes in my description below for where you can get hold of Let's Resin and save a few pounds. Also, don't forget, we did some coring as well. So we also have 3 other pieces to have a go at. I'm going to wait until my garage door is fixed before I start to attempt these, because it makes it so much easier to clean this place when I can get the garage door open and allow a lot of fresh air through. So these are going to have to wait a little while. Same goes for the rest of the stump. We've still got this great big piece to do something with. That's still about, I would say, just under 2 foot long. And it's all ready with the resin already in there. So if you've got any ideas of what we can do with this, leave them in the comments below. Lastly, if you fancy having a go at a grass tree root, I've got this from a company called Yandles in the UK, and I know they have a few left as well, and I'll leave a description where you can get one from. But remember, if you do have a go at turning one, you've got to keep yourself very safe, because as I mentioned at the start, the dust from this thing is carcinogenic. And I think that's about it. If you've enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things, and if you could share it as well, then that would be absolutely amazing. Apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you.